Hello, it is me. Oh, good afternoon. It's been lovely and sunny here, and it feels like spring is on its way. And yeah, have you ever, when you get, my name's Sunday, by the way. Shall we do a take two? When you get into upset or triggered, and you can feel the sort of reactions that you typically have you found ways of dealing with it? Because I want to share a little bit of what I've been experiencing. So over these last 2 weeks, maybe a bit longer actually, 2 or 3 weeks, I've been experiencing some old stuff around feeling out of control, overwhelmed, a sort of rushy, panicky energy, feeling pressured. And often I've noticed it's like a pressure to perform. And, you know, when I look back at my childhood, I can see exactly where that came from. You know, that tendency to get into that overwhelm and wanting something to be finished so I could rest, you know, or feel that my time was my own again. And it's interesting, all of this, because it's like I'm finding out, even now at 60 odd, finding out aspects of myself that, you know, the habits, the tendencies, the patterns that I run. And so the overwhelm has come from me offering loads of stuff out there, and like loads of stuff coming back, and I've just thought, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I've got all these sort of like what I've called play streams, different aspects of my life that I want to play in. And my work, said in sort of like inverted commas, because it does feel like, well, it doesn't perhaps feel like a traditional sense of work to me, around my coaching and my service and that thing that I do. It's a major one, you know. It's where I get a sense of participation in life, being in service, being useful, just giving, like feeling like I'm giving. So then when it turns into overwhelm, I've noticed what I tend to do. Historically, I've tended to clean, organise, instruct, control, force, dominate, and I've noticed that I've been in that energy for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And yesterday, a good friend was sharing something with me, and all this irritation, feeling harassed. You know, that my mum used to say she felt harassed a lot. It's a good old-fashioned word for feeling overwhelmed, I suppose. And we talked about it because she was in the same sort of feeling, you know, irritated. We both got a little bit irritated with each other. Anyway, she went off. I followed her a bit and apologised, and it was all a bit, it was great. And she asked me what was underneath it all, and so then I started to dig a bit and explored all of this and thought, yeah, this is a typical old coping pattern. When my life feels out of control, I put things in place to help me to feel back in control, and one of those is my environment, you know, very much wanting to sort it, organise it, clean it, and making work for myself. And it's been fascinating watching myself these last 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, as I came out of it yesterday, as a result of sharing it really and just realising what was going on, which has reminded me to raise it with somebody sooner, you know, and say I can feel this sense of this sort of like feeling overwhelmed and how it plays out. And Stephen knows because he's lived with me for so long. And I watched my relationship with him, and I noticed when I could see myself being like this energy around him, and I almost felt him say to himself, yeah, just be with this, Stephen, just be with it. This is how she is sometimes. So this morning, I went in and I sort of knelt beside him and apologised. Well, I said, I've come to tell you I love you and also thank you. And he said, what for? And so I said, I've realised that I've been in that strange place that I go sometimes, where I'm bossy and pushy and organising and controlling. And I said, I felt you. I felt you at once or twice, like just being with it. I could see you doing it for me. And his eyes filled up and my eyes filled up. And I said, you know, and he was like devouring my face at that time. And Stephen is different, is sometimes he doesn't make eye contact when I think he might. And this time he was really paying attention to me. It just felt so lovely. And so I said to him, you know, like, when you see me going into these spinny places, would you say, are you struggling Sunday? And it would just sort of help me to open up to that possibility that I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm going into that old habit that I've had for as long as I can remember, when I felt out of control in some way. I've buried myself into doing, like, being Sergeant Major-ish, and I did it a lot with my then small children. And my huge apologies to my daughters for that, for being like that. And there were times when I wasn't obviously like that, and I was more fun and easygoing. But I seem to remember a lot of my young motherhood being in that space of having to be super organised, super fast. And I know it's my childhood, you know, I know it, you know, I was expected to do a lot as a young person, and I tended to lose a sense of who I was in all of that, and where was my choice and all that. You know, I felt like I didn't have much choice. I had to do what was bidden of me. And so my only way of kind of, and I can imagine that some people would choose food at that point, you know, like anorexia is born out of that place of not feeling in control. So food is something that you can control. Well, I suppose what I turned to was cleaning, order, organisation, not relaxing. It's a tough place to be, and I'm sure I'm not alone, that the harder things get, the more we double down on being organised. It's like, I don't know what it is, but at least I see it, and at least now I can acknowledge it, and it's hell on earth to try and relax when I'm like that. It really is. It's like my whole body is like wired to move fast, to think fast, I don't know what I'm running away from. I don't know what I'm trying to escape, but maybe I don't need to know that. It's just that I can witness it now. And maybe, you know, that for me, what I'm seeing is that when I speak about it, it somehow moves out of my body in the words. You know, it's just sharing, this is what's going on for me right now. I've yet to get really accomplished in doing that when I've noticed I'm in that. I'm just more in it than I am aware that I'm in it. And then I get sneaky reminders. Sunday, you're hoovering up not an awful lot here, honey. Yeah, well, we need to. It needs it. You know, and it's so strange. I suppose in a way it's an obsession. It's a bit of neurotic behaviour. And, you know, and it's interesting, I don't have any shame or guilt around it. I have a sense of regret, I think, of not seeing it sooner, not being able to apologise to my daughters for being like that with them, you know, because there were times when, you know, don't come in the house like that, take your clothes off, I'm putting the laundry on, take your clothes off. And there's a part of me that is a little bit ashamed. I can say it, you know, and but also I can have compassion for myself, because that was the way that I knew back then. If I'd have known now what I knew back then, and still even in my 60s, it's sort of like hanging around in the peripheries, ready to jump in when I feel overwhelmed. And it's no fun at all, and obviously it's no fun for the people who live with me. They just give me a wide berth, you know, try and avoid me. And so I'm in my group, Healing Parents, there's a few people who kind of get not willing to look at that every child has some sort of childhood wound And I say that in inverted commas because the purpose of the childhood wound is to give us something that is a problem, which is strange because maybe human beings don't need problems, but at this level of awareness, I think somehow we do. And they're piling on our plates like right, left and centre at the moment in all spheres of aspects of life. And I think it's not particularly enlightened way of living, and yet that's where we're at the moment as human beings. We're a bit slow learners, aren't we? We've had these messages for like 2,000 years, but we still can't get over ourselves. We're still carrying this fear from childhood that was instilled in some big or small way by our caregivers. And it sets off then a wiring in us that thinks that the world is like this, and the way that I behave then helps me to cope with the way that I see life is. So I think for me, and interestingly, my fear of being dominated, controlled and overruled and got no voice or got no autonomy, being controlled, has led me to be controlling myself. It's all kind of topsy-turvy, and maybe I don't need to dig around in it to that degree. It's just that noticing when I'm stressed, when I feel harassed, I go into this way of being that brings results that I don't particularly enjoy and don't want anymore. You know, I want to be peaceful. I want to enjoy. I want to have space. I don't want to be bloody cleaning and trying to control my environment so that it feels right, whatever that is. Fascinating, isn't it? And that's old wiring. And I have got some new wiring, praise the Lord, that I can, and some tools to get back into the lane that I love, rather than in this controlling, trying to sort my life out, trying to feel in control, a way of being. So I'm curious, you know, like what is it that you can see, or maybe you can't yet, you know, the typical, what feels normal responses that, well, the reactions really, not responses, because you choose responses and there isn't much choice going on when you're in reaction. That's my experience of me anyway. And I think maybe sometimes I can fool myself. I'm responding when really I'm reacting. So I'm choosing to be, well, maybe I am choosing to be like that. I remember saying once, okay, I'm choosing to be angry now. And that kind of blew the person's mind a little bit when I said that. And it was the truth, you know, I was actually choosing to be angry because things weren't right and I didn't like it. But I wasn't in anger, if you know what I mean. I was, yeah, I don't know how to explain that one. Because I know I can very much react in anger, and then responding in anger is a completely different ballgame. And the first time I could do it, I thought, wow, this is fabulous. You know, I can respond in anger rather than react and lose the plot, you know. Because I'm not, with Stephen, it's really difficult to relate with somebody when they're in their stuff. In fact, it's nigh on impossible. But there are chinks, you know, if Stephen was to say to me, are you struggling right now, in an empathic tone, I would think that I would be able to say, yeah, I am. And I just feel lost in this stuff that I'm feeling and how to deal with it right now. And so changing my state becomes the next, you know, what is it I can do that's going to change my state and put the Hoover back? I know I'm using the Hoover as a sort of, it broke. This was interesting, it broke recently a couple of times, so I had to take it. I was without it for a couple of days. And I was aware that, you know, that I wanted my Hoover back so I could, it's like a security blanket. And today, you know, I've just been much more relaxed around, and I've still got the same amount of stuff to do. It's just that now I can give it space. I was rushing and trembling and really getting adrenaline and cortisol hits. And I'm so grateful that I can see it and I can choose to change it. It's not always easy. and I can choose to change this reaction to feeling overwhelmed. And the lovely outcome of it was that Stephen and I grew some more spaghetti strands. I have this thing that, you know, when you love somebody, you sort of like grow strings between your heart and theirs, and when you have a fallout, you break, and you know, it's this perpetual filling your heart and breaking whatever between you. And I think, you know, we put a few more, well, I had a few more spaghetti strings going from my heart to his, you know, the little threads of love between us. So that was a lovely outcome, and for that alone, I'm really grateful I had that experience of feeling overwhelmed. Anyway, I love you lots. Thank you for listening. I can see there's a few people on, and yeah, bless you. All right, I'll speak to you again soon. Bye. Bye.